Well, what's the crack, everybody? How are you getting on? Welcome to another episode of Buckshot with Tom O'Mahony. I'm a little late. It's Saturday the 3rd. Yesterday was bananas, so we got a recording done yesterday. Jeez, fair play to you. The Patreons just got it a while ago, and they got it with no ads. So you know the crack. Oh, Spotify. If you're, the rap thing keeps on coming up on whatchamacallit on every time I open Spotify. Class, thank you all, everybody who's been putting me in their top. I don't know what it is to be. I'm an idiot when it comes to this, but thank you everybody who's been tagging me on Instagram. So continue to do that if you would, please. Tell more people about it. And if you want to become a patron, we got a couple of new ones this week. Welcome on board. Fair play to you. It was James, Cleo, and Brian. Fair play. Mighty to have you. You, of course, get the Ramble Pods midweek, which is like 45 minutes to an hour of me going bananas and answering questions. And it's exclusively for the Patreon, so that's comes out midweek. If you want extra Tom shouting and roaring, that's there for you, and you get the videos as well to the interviews. You know the crack. Gigs coming up, of course. I have my club, which is the Hill Comedy Club here in Tipperary in Care, on the 29th of December. Tickets are going nicely for that one, so I would say make a night of it. Come see me. I'm there with Joe. Who's with us? No, Joe was last month. Cormac Moore, Jackie Cronin, and Father Ted's Owen McLove, aka, well, not aka, his actual name, Pat McDonald. He was also in a bunch of other things. He was in The Savage Eye. He was in Naked Camera. He's an absolute lightning bolt. He's a lunatic. So I can't wait for the people of Tipperary to see this guy. So if you're from further afield, come on down for the night. It's that weird bit between Christmas and New Year's that nobody knows what to do. We'll come get drunk with Tom in his comedy club in Care and Tipperary. I will be next week. I'm going to be in Belfast on the 8th. I'm going to be at Lavery's Comedy Club headlining, and I'm very, very, very excited about that because I have nothing on the day before and nothing on the day after, so I am going to be chilling and grilling, hanging out with the likes of Geddes and a couple more of the boys, so I'm looking forward to that very, very much. So if you're in the Belfast diaspora, I don't know, is diaspora the right word? I don't know anything about these kind of things. Come join us on the 8th, which is the Thursday. Anyway, moving on to today's guest. I'd probably the longest I've known somebody, and we've stayed continually great friends, and we've done so many mad gigs together. He's just powerful. The guy's just turned the switch, let him off, and I absolutely love it. The huge perspective he has on the world of comedy, because he literally has gigged in every corner of the world. It's so class. Oh yeah, with some good, big man talk. Big man talk, yeah? Big man thing, yeah? As well as just, Jesus, I mean, gigging in Guatemala and like stuff you're going, oh, what? This will be a podcast where you may even learn something. Failing that, you're going to have a right good crack. It's Danny O'Brien. What's the crack? For anybody who's just joined in, you're going, oh, what? Who, have we met these? Is the recording? Yeah, we just literally started recording because myself and Danny have been talking and we went, oh, Jesus, we better actually do something here. It's Danny O'Brien. Fucking welcome back.
How are you, Tom? I'm excited because if memory serves me correctly, the last time we did one of these was during COVID, and the both of us, I was wearing a weird tracksuit top, like some sort of Lithuanian gangster, and we met in a car park at Liffey Valley, and we were like two dissident Republicans planning an attack.
I was
with wires everywhere on the dash.
Yeah.
It looked like so dodgy.
That was the thing, like anybody else in Liffey Valley would definitely come up to you in the car and say something like whatever, but when you see the heads, the two big Slavic fucking heads on the two of us and say, Slav King, just hang it.
Yeah, I got out of my Corolla into your Opel.
Two absolute rock stars.
absolute bang of IRA off the both of us. Like,
they so looked like two stolen cars too, didn't they? Like the lads have robbed them for sure.
I still have that car.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't kill it. Like, it just won't die. I was like, during COVID, it was the same. Like, I was like every other gobshite in Ireland. Oh, I think we need a new car. Like, no, we really don't. Nope. And now with an energy crisis and everything, and the Corolla's gonna outlive me. Like, we both know that's a fact.
Yeah.
But I just can't justify it. Like, in my 20s, my ego probably needed it. It's like, oh, you need a car. But I reversed into a pole in Kilmainham going to the second gig on Wednesday night. Like, I've been driving on the other side of the road for 6 weeks, and then I'm in Kilmainham, and I was trying to get to In-Jokes, and they blocked off a road, had to reverse down a lane, and I just kind of bounced the pole. It was grand. Like, so the Corona didn't even feel it, man.
That's so. I love the notion that he's a Polish fella, and it was like, what? But because Polish lads wouldn't be bothered with insurance, right? They were like, it's okay. It's Corolla.
Yeah.
I respect Corolla.
When I was in Mexico, like, and I went there. I kind of went there to get into Central America, and went there on the way home. Like, that's where I flew in and out of. And I was 24 hours in Mexico, and it was in an Uber going to meet a mate of mine to do a gig. We're going for a bit of food or whatever, and an old Mexican woman just drove straight into the back of the Uber, like. And I was like, your man just gets out, like, man, he didn't even swear. He didn't even, like, go, for fuck's sake, nothing. He just gets out, looks at the boot, gives the bumper, rubs it with his hand, he gets back in and kind of goes, ugh, and then just drove off.
Like, you'll have that.
You know, I bumped into someone like that, and this absolute prick said he had whiplash, no damage to either car, and claimed 18 grand off my fucking car insurance, and my car insurance was I was like over £1,000 for 5 years.
What?
Yeah, because someone, and it was on my birthday as well. I literally bumped into him, and he's like, "Oh, I've whiplash," and I just said, "Man, like, I'm gonna give you whiplash if I don't get off the phone immediately." And he claimed, and he got it, because it's easier for insurance companies in Ireland to just pay people out than it is to actually investigate it.
Oh yeah, it is. I'll never forget years ago, I was on the M50 when it was, do you know, I mean, it's never good, but when it was new, but it was a relatively new M50, you know what I mean? But I was...
The M50 is like hooking up with an ex over Christmas. It's never good.
It's never good. Never a good idea, bro. But I was I was heading down to Wicklow or something. It was during the golf course building days, and it was fucking madness. I was trying to get down. And I remember this woman pranged off the back of the old Jeep. She big fucking hitch on the thing. She fucked herself up, but I got out to see if she was okay. It wasn't actually in my head because it was just a culture. I just got out just to go. And she started crying. She's like, "I'm so sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here's my detail." I was like, what? No, what? No, but she couldn't grasp that I didn't give one fuck.
That kind of
the Hilux. I was driving a fucking Hilux. Like, do you know what I mean?
But that's why no one can open, like, people really struggle in Ireland to open businesses. And not to start off all negatively, but a good friend of ours and podcaster extraordinaire, I was chatting to Gordon Rochford yesterday, and of those conspiracy guys. This is not a conspiracy, unfortunately. Ireland has now come in, as I talked about this on stage last night. We are now the most expensive country in Europe to live, but by a lot. Like, we're ahead of Zurich.
Imagine Zurich.
London, Zurich, and Paris. Dublin is more expensive to live in than any of those three places.
Can you imagine that? Like, the pizzazz of Paris, the techno fucking high end of Zurich. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then you come to Dublin, and you can't. You can fly.
Can I interest you in the ILAC Centre? Have you Would you like to take a walk down the cultural effigy that is Talbot Street at the moment? And I used to work in social care, man, and even I'm just going, lads, this is out of control. This is out of control. It reminds me of, like, Batman when Gotham turns, you know, when Batman off for like a 2-week holiday or whatever. He goes to, like, the
he goes to the Gaeltacht, yeah.
He goes to the Gaeltacht, then he's like, I'm out, chief. And then everything just goes to shit. That is Dublin city centre at the moment, particularly on the side of the inner city, dude. Like, I parked there last night.
Fair play to you.
I always just, because the car, my Corolla's such a piece of shit. That's the reason I can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Like,
it'd be robbed.
But like, I remember driving by, I did that motorbike show years ago, and I had the CB, which is now a Cafe Racer, but I drove that CB around, and do you know that really horrendous petrol station? It's in Tullamore, I think. It's where all the truckers stop.
Yes, I know the one.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like the last one before Dublin, before Applegreen or anything like that. And I stopped there, and there was two gentlemen from a community in Ireland. Local community.
Local to everywhere.
I'm freezing, man. Like, I could barely get my card out to pay for fuel because, like, my hands are froze off me. This is in the summer, but it was Ireland. And I remember like shivering, like trying to get the helmet off to try and pay for like the petrol. And there's two lads just start like wrenching my wing mirrors off the motorbike while it's at the petrol pump.
While it's there.
And I said, lads, I just was so tired. I'm like, I'm not going to fight them, like, obviously. And I just said, lads, not to be rude, but I need those to live. So if you could not take my wing mirrors off while I go on the motorway, and like, oh, sorry about that. And I'm like it was an accident. Like
I fell against it.
Yeah, like they fell against it with two hands, with one foot up on the wheel, and I was just there going. But that's how I feel about the Corolla, like, because I just like I parked outside the ropiest, like kind of block of flats near Gardner Street, and sometimes it's the best thing to do because people know who you are, and they assume you're local because no one would be thick enough to leave their car there unless you're from there.
Yeah,
that's my logic anyway. So touch wood, nothing's happened to Corolla for the last few years.
I was parking the old Opel I used to park because it had D-Reg, and it kind of looked like a cop car. So I could throw it anywhere around Dublin. Nobody would ever look at it. But now...
Blue Mondeo is your best mate.
This was a blue Insignia. Sure, it was the...
Oh, yeah.
It was the brother of it. But yeah. I now have a Tipperary Reg one. I haven't a hope. I got to put it in multi-stories now. I haven't a hope. It's coming, like, there'll be nothing left of it. Like,
there's a bang of up for the day for the match.
Oh,
or December 8th. It's a December
8th. You can smell the sandwiches in tinfoil off the fucking thing. Like,
it just smells like coleslaw, coleslaw and red diesel. You should sell that as an air freshener. Coleslaw and red diesel in like a magic tree.
I'm getting a bit of a horn thinking about it, to be honest. It's quite nice.
I don't know why I just thought about this. My cousin lives in Athlone. I just remember one time I called down to him and his nickname's Rasher because my granduncle used to have the like factory for Denny, so he would be the distributor for all the foods and stuff. And my cousin used to drive the van and deliver all that stuff. So like that's why his nickname is Rasher. And this is just the most, and this particularly for the Irish listeners, particularly for anyone who's listening from the Midlands, they live in a place called Arcadia, which is where in the house my mother and my uncles were actually born. And then they moved to Dublin and my cousin bought the house. He lives there with his family, right? And I went in and his wife wasn't there. The house is stunning. Like it's just off the near the B&Q and stuff in Athlone. And it's class because you can just pull in and I'm just there like straight away with Gordon to Mayo or whatever.
One of the 14 exits off to Athlone.
Yeah. I called in just 4 casual roundabouts. And I called in and we're just kind of sitting there and he's like, do you want a cup of tea? We're just kind of sitting there awkward. And I love the awkwardness of Irish men. And like I've met like your family members and mine are very much the same. Like the mothers are so caring, like, would you like a sandwich? And you know, they go full Mrs. Doyle on you. And he was kind of awkward, and we kind of had this cup of tea, and he didn't really know what to do, and he just goes, "Do you want a Volavant?" I was like, "You have a Volavant on the go?" Actually, you know what I mean? Like, who has? Like, I have random shit in my fridge, and I'm sure you do as well. But I don't have like a casual Volavant just knocking around.
That's where his brain went to.
So then he's like. Microwaves 2 Volavant cases. Like he's just time traveled to a 1991 wedding.
Is there prawn cocktail as well to go with it? Like just
gone into the kitchen and stole 2 Volavants and then teleported back to the 2000s. And then gives me like a kilo of coleslaw, like an industrial tub, like an ice cream tub. It just stabs a fork into it. And I'm just there going, spooning cold coleslaw on the microwave Volavants going, this is peak Athlone.
That is... Wow, Jesus Christ!
That's the country in Ireland for me, anyway.
That's like my old lad could literally, like you'd be lucky with my old lad. He'd throw you a can of beans and a can opener and go work away, because I'm not doing no come Volavants. He'd be just so.
I remember your material about your old lad shooting the tree, and I've met him. Like, so if anyone ever thinks that's bullshit, it definitely is.
He's a raw bastard, but
shooting a tree into submission.
But you think I'm joking? Like, there's the raw bastards since I moved back down here. Like the just raw savages. Like I met a chap the other day, and it was great seeing him, and his kid is like the same age as mine. It was low, and I remember, did your old fella lose a thumb because of a blackthorn? It just popped into my head. He goes, "Oh, he did, yeah." And like,
so rather than get it fixed, he got it
a
amputated.
blackthorn stuck in it.
Yeah, they're brutal.
I wouldn't go to that fucking quack. So I just had it chopped off because it just went fucking black and died on his hand, just withered.
I'll tell you one thing, man. There's 2 reasons that I would be fairly confident that fella's not on Twitter. Giving out about pronouns.
You can, yeah, 2 reasons. One, he can't type with no thumb.
2, what the fuck is a Twitter?
Do you know, like, but this is what you're like. I saw a bloke the other morning. Now it was like 4 degrees, and I've seen this guy before. Him and his brother have to be the most cash-rich fuckers in the country. They deal in timber, but the kind of timber that the forestry can't get out. You know, the huge things, or they're kind of in between. And these lads basically come in afterwards, like scavengers. Basically, they pay the forester and go, "We'll get that fucking thing out." They'll run half a mile of chain, drag it through in the rain, and you know.
Oh yeah, man, my mates do that in Wicklonian. It is the most brutal work. You have to be into it, but it's
but like. They have a stockpile. If you looked on Google Maps, if I gave you the address, if you looked at Google Maps, their stockpile just up the mountain from us here, like you can see it's like something out of Colorado. Like it's fucking ridiculous. But I saw your man, it was like 3-4 degrees the other morning. It had to be 5:30. No cab. I could hear this tractor come from ages, and my head is like, oh, that's a modern day tractor. He's traveling at 40 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour. It was like something out of Monty Python. I was at the gate to leave. The cunt hadn't come for like 5 minutes. I was like, where's this fucking track? Next, he finally passed. No cab, no gloves, no jacket, no hat, shaved head. And he's doing 15 miles an hour tops. So wherever I know for a fact he's going 20 miles. So he's traveling at least another hour and a bit to get to where he's going.
Yeah.
And his teeth aren't chattering. He's not. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You know, if these phone lads even have phones, they're the brick. They're not going like, I hope, like, to be woke to them is a dog barking outside and actually waking up. Like that's what.
It reminded me of there's a pal of mine from a place called Glasson, which is actually just outside Athlone. And
yeah. Is it Longford? I think Glasson is.
I think it's on the border actually. Yeah. But it's in Athlone, but whatever. But her grandparents had, they had their kids and everything. They were, as Irish grandparents, they'd nothing for really doing. They'd retired and they would just kind of be hanging around the house. And like, I've seen this with a lot of people in my family, and like they'll either get a dog or the grandchild becomes the thing or the cat becomes the thing. Like everyone needs a thing to kind of just give them kind of purpose, I suppose, from day to day, and stop their life being mundane or whatever it may be. But their thing is that they had a rat in the house, right? But like it was this absolute like proper splinter, like beast, and like couldn't kill it. Set a load of traps, like he just shook them off, like you know what I mean? Like they tried everything. They got exterminators in. Then, like, they thought he was gone, and they'd be watching telly, and suddenly the lights would go out because he'd have to through wires in the attic. Like, this thing was just an absolute fucking machine. And, like, all they talked about for months and months was this rat. And to the point that they're like, we need to just get rid of this rat. Like, it's ruining everyone's life, right? And then she called over one day to the grandparents, and her granny goes, she brought her upstairs. And like the front of the bath with the plastic, the bath, the rat had eaten a hole like the size of like a giant grapefruit, a hole through the plastic in the side of the bath, right? And her granny goes, that rat's after eating that hole in the bath, and he wasn't even hungry. He ate that hole. He ate that bath out of pure badness.
The rat is behind smoking a fag going, you're fucking right. And I'll do it again.
That to me is Ireland. Like that's Ireland to me in a nutshell. Like that, if there's anyone who's not from Ireland, if you want to know what goes on in this country, that's what goes on.
That's what goes on. I'd forgotten, and I want to go back to another depiction of like Ireland being more expensive than anywhere, or Dublin being more expensive than anywhere else. And sure, everywhere around Ireland is following suit. To give you a context of how naive once upon a time a gang of us were, we only knew of Cork and Dublin Airport and Shannon or whatever. So
Yeah.
we were all going skiing. And we were flying to Munich because the closest we could get.
Culchies on ice.
Culchies on ice. And, well, I was the only real Culchie out of them, but we had to get to Austria, to a place called Zellmzee. And we said, well, we'll hire the Jeep. Yes, it'll sit there in the fucking car park for the week when we get there, but sure, look, it's the only way. Lads, it's the closest airport. And we flew in, hired the car, paid extra for snow tires and all that. For fuck's sake, I was going driving it. And as we're walking through Munich fucking airport, our jaws all just fucking dragged along the ground. We saw in the middle of the airport, still under the same roof, Danny, hadn't left the property, there was a nice little stairwell or stairs to go down to the train station, which was underneath, which was, and guess where?
Did you fly into Vienna?
No, there wasn't an option to fly into Vienna. Like, whatever way, it wasn't an option. But here's what we saw. The train underneath the airport, because why would you have that magic going on?
Yeah.
The train underneath the airport went straight to fucking Zellmzee. And we had already paid for the fucking Jeep. So we now had to drive the fucking road to Austria.
Alongside the train.
Pretty much. Looking, going, we could have got...
cowboy right beside the train, but you're in a resentful fucking hired Jeep.
Yeah. Like, the hatred, because we'd given whatever for the fucking Jeep for the week, and we could have gotten it for a tenth of the price and not have to drive. We could have all gotten drunk and gotten on the fucking train. It was the naivety that we just didn't consider for a second, that there was proper transportation out there where, the connection, you mean you don't have to wait for a bus to bring you into the city centre.
You don't have to change trains at Limerick Junction. What is this magic?
What is this wizardry? Like, fuck, and we felt like such knobs, untravelled, uneducated knobs. We're like, oh my Christ.
I toyed with the idea. I was like, maybe I should get an electric car because there was grants and stuff going at the time. And I'm like, I struggle to get petrol on the way back from gigs sometimes.
Yeah. Imagine the anxiety if your phone was running out and now your car is running out.
It's like, and like, I was talking about this last night. Like, I love Ireland for a lot of reasons, but Jesus Christ, man, I don't think people have any idea how hard you have to work to just live in Dublin. I don't live all I do is like, I gig, I eat, I barely even go for pints. Like, I just don't, because I'm gigging all the time, and I go to the gym, and that's it. And like if you knew how much it costs to just live, it's not like we've got the sunshine out every day or whatever. I'm like, just existing in Dublin is a pain in the fucking arse. Like, you really have to work hard.
Yeah.
Just to be. I'm not like, I don't have kids. I've no dependents. I don't have any debt or anything like that. So when you see families and stuff like that, I'm just like, people look at Ireland because we've got like, Facebook, we've LinkedIn, and we've all these different companies or Meta or whatever, all operating here. And I'm like, even the people who work for them, they all live there. They eat at work. It's kind of like a modern day prison in a lot of ways for a lot of those companies. And like, they're all like, sale, get the clicks for 12 hours a day. You know what I mean?
It's zero crack.
The work-life balance in Ireland is extremely, extremely poor.
Well, especially in Dublin, because Dublin has just it's kind of lost the fucking run, but it's hoored itself out so hard. It's just gone to a point where it's like, oh, yes, we can do anything you want. Of course we can do it. Yeah, we'll work the fucking back off them, don't you? Oh, we'll do. It's driven itself to the point where it's hoored itself out, where I can't sustain. Like, you don't have the roads, the transport. Like, I'll never forget, I was down the first time, and I've said this on the podcast, but it was a perfect depiction. The first time we were in the house in when we started renting down here first, and I rang. I said, I'll get some oil. Yeah. And I rang up with my big Dublin ready to go head. I had the card held out in front of me, Danny, ready to read my number. And I swear to God, your man, rather than going, this is, hi, good morning, O'Brien's oil, your man just answered the phone. He went, well. I says, well, is this whatever oil? And he went, yeah, it is, yeah. I says, I'd like to get some oil. So grand. Oh, what'll I put you down for? So I told, I don't know, a few 100 litres. And he says, okay, grand. And right. And I said, will I give you my address? He went, sure, go on. So, yeah. So I gave him the address, air code, the whole lot. Knowing, as I'm saying, I went, this fucker's not here and they're writing any of this down. Yeah. And I swear to God, he went, now tell me where you are. What? So I told him that the guy who owned the house went, grand, and hung up. No card, no
No
nothing.
payment.
45 minutes later, I swear to God, your man must have just been heading up the road. It's
Yeah.
the biggest the biggest white guy I've ever seen in my life. He must have been close to 7 foot. I was
Yeah.
making a cup of tea at the back fucking kitchen window. Your man sticks his head around, knocks on the window, goes, "Hiya, that's full now. Look, gone." And I went, and I just saw the oil truck pulling out. He was after putting the oil in. Nobody came looking for any fuck. I had to ring them a month later to go, lads, I have to fucking pay. What?
Yeah.
They were going, you could have dropped the check in. The check. You could have dropped the check in anytime. Like, but sure, don't be worried about that. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
There's a niceness about that, and like there's a raw hostility that kind of comes with living in a city.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't live in the city centre because when I'm here, I'm in there nearly every night. You know what I mean? I live like down just beside the Aviva Stadium here, and I love it down here. But like Dublin City, working in it is grand, man. I couldn't live in the city centre. It's too easy to go pinting and stuff as well.
Way too easy. Eating shit
also,
food. Yeah, everything is there.
Yeah, there's also too much chaos that it's not. You know, life as a comic is chaotic enough, but like if I was living in Dublin on top of that, I'd just be nah.
Maybe I suppose if you worked in a dull fucking job, maybe the fucking madness of what the city is would kind of give you a bit of zip. But like, there's enough zip for us when we get on stage to go, oh, I'd like to go and live in a tree now immediately after this. Please.
Yeah, like I'm constantly in nature. Like any opportunity, I'm on the motorbike down to Wicklow. With
you see your pictures, like
eyes streaming, and I'm just, here's what I do. I like screaming.
just driving, just singing like Bonnie Tyler tunes.
I don't even. I just have to I have to vent. I have to get it out of me. Well, you know, whatever it is, whether it's traffic. So I'm literally just like, just screaming on the motorway like a lunatic, and then because like I just like, will it get the 180? Will it get the 180? And I start dropping, like, I'm gonna die, and then I stop, and then I feel alive. That's great.
That's I one of the first times it was after COVID, and we'd moved down here, and I was gigging properly again, like, and it was the first time I was back up in Dublin in yonks, like, and I haven't used that word either in ages. Yonks, I love it.
Don't use it again. I just got 2 unfollows there. I just got 2 unfollows there, and this hasn't.
We haven't even gone live. But I pulled up onto I was driving it along, you know, past the Long Mile Road, past McGregor's pub. I was like, oh, look at all the strange coloured people in their not strange coloured, but strange colours of people, like just these peacock dressed people walking into Conor McGregor's pub. I went, that's Dublin, fair enough. But I hadn't realised by the time I got up onto the canals, like some bollocks on a bike just fucking nearly clipped the front of me. He ran a red light. And immediately, for the first time in months, I went from like a nice simmering 2 to 11 in under half a second. I went, for the love of, blew the fucking gasket immediately. Like, I went, for fuck's sake, this can't be fucking healthy. Like, Jesus, not for me, not for somebody like me anyway.
When I'm traveling, like to Galway or Mayo, or wherever it may be, I've just worked it out. Like, I don't let myself get stuck in this. Sometimes it's inevitable, you know what I mean? If you're doing radio or whatever it may be. But if I'm gigging in Galway or Mayo, I'm up early. I'm gone. I go to the gym or something early, and I am gone, man. I'm out the road at 11 o'clock. I'll call into my cousin for a cup of tea. I'll flute around Mayo. I'll do a bit of admin when I get there. I'll do a bit of writing, whatever it may be. Life is too short to be sitting on the M50 or to be sitting in traffic. And like, I see people like doing a 2-hour commute on top of an 8-hour day. Like, and all these offices like telling people to come back to work. You don't need, if you're getting your job done at home, let people do their fucking job at home. Why are you putting an 8-hour commute and stress and fuel? You're putting like 400 quid of fuel, but you're also taking 10 hours a month, a week.
Yeah, a week.
You're looking at like 40 hours a month. You're making someone sit in their car.
Oh, Jesus.
If it's an ad, like, we have to physically go to places, get on stage, do a gig. That's the job. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand it. Like, I'm surrounded by empty buildings. Like, Meta's just built a new city, and there's no one in it. There's no.
Really?
It's empty. There's like, I'm not exaggerating. I'd say you could hold 30,000 people in there.
What the
Like,
fuck?
it's right beside the Aviva. They bought over the old AIB building, and now
Yeah.
Meta's built this universe. It's their head central office, but everyone works remotely, and now they're all laying off staff. Twitter, I reckon, will be gone by January at this rate.
Because they had a new building as well, didn't they? Over
Yeah,
up the way, up by Tara Street.
TikTok's taken a nosedive, and everyone kind of has had this attitude over the last while of, oh yeah, you're sorted. It was kind of like a civil service attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you're in with a tech company, dude, we are so all disposable, and nothing highlighted how disposable all of us are, more so than COVID.
Yeah.
And you diversify and you do different things, and we all did different stuff. I wish I did OnlyFans.
I was just thinking of that. I'm gonna tell you do well on OnlyFans. Like your man from Bray. Your man from fucking Bray was making 50 or 60,000 a month.
I know a barman, I can't name for legal purposes, who made 20 grand doing OnlyFans, and he's straight. And I was like, what were you doing? He's like, I was just like, they love the fitness stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, just one of the videos. It started out with him like doing sit-ups and stuff. And then he was just doing like pull-ups.
With his cock out.
And he doesn't even look at he doesn't interact with anyone. I don't know how it works. I'm assuming it's like Twitch or something that you just, and people, he goes, lads have sending me money, so I just kept doing it. Like, so he wouldn't talk to anyone, and he was just a straight fella basically doing pull-ups with his flute out. And he got 20 grand together. I was like, I 100% would have done that instead of Zoom gigs over COVID. If I knew that was an option.
If I was in your position, if I was not married and have a child, I would absolutely. Because I was looking at your man, because your man from Bray, and he was on. And I remember doing a bit, but about it because it was topical. It was only a thing that could last 2 weeks. And I remember doing it in I think he was doing it at Laughter Lounge or something. And I just did it without writing it. It was like, can you fucking imagine? Because the idea was that COVID was so hard on people that women were now turning to porn. And they were turning to porn so hard that they didn't mind a fella that was ginger or had a Bray accent. Like, that'll tell you how hard COVID was on people. Like, because you could be a 10 in Bray, but as soon as you speak.
All right, champ, you want to see me flu? I want to see the flu.
Your man was on, and he was lying out through his bollocks. Like, he's on everything, like this guy. And it's just so strange the way he stands there. Like, but he's making money. But he was on Claire Burns' show, and she was like, you're making 60 grand a month on this. Like, but you must be like, getting, talking off. He goes, no, there's no nuance. And you're like, man, you are pulling yourself around the room. Would you fucking stop? Like,
no one's giving you 60 grand for you to sit there in your jocks. That's what everyone did during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I did Zoom gigs in my jocks. That is not OnlyFans. They're two very different things. And yeah, I couldn't literally just did pull-ups with his flute out, made a load of money. And the first thing I just said is like, fair fucking play to you. I wish I thought of that.
Class.
And I'm dealing with companies going now, there won't be any profanities, and we need to be very careful about it. Like, I did a gig, and I can't mention it in case they like kill my family, because they're one of the big ones. And they were like, we're having a Christmas event for our staff, but you're not to use the word Christmas because that would be offensive to people who don't celebrate it. And I'm like, I've plenty of Jewish and Muslim friends who don't celebrate Christmas, and I'm pretty sure they don't have an issue with the word Christmas.
And they're delighted with a Christmas bonus and a Christmas holiday.
It's Jesus Christ. And then they were like, they were giving out these awards to the staff all over the world. So I wasn't allowed to do any jokes. That's how out of control it got. Because they were so afraid of upsetting people that they said, don't do any jokes. So I was essentially just a presenter. And they gave out these awards, and they said, we're not to, so no Christmas. Okay, don't say Christmas. We're not to use the word awards, because that would be offensive to people who haven't won awards. So, I'm not joking. We're going to refer to them as celebrations. And it was the most fucking psycho Scientology shit that I've ever. And I'm like, I don't care if I have to fucking drive, 7 hours to do a gig. I do not want to work in that world. We all have to do admin. We all have to pay our taxes. And, there's a lot of boring shit that comes with comedy that you have to do because it's your job and that's it. Like, it's 90% fucking admin and emails and flights and travel and organizing and posters and ads and, all the bullshit. But whatever about that, man, I will do that all day long instead of working for some company that doesn't let you use the word award.
I still refer back to your man that let his thumb die. Like, you know what I mean? But I'd say it could be the same company. I did an acting workshop for him online, and to cast them into their roles, they were going to film it. It was going to be rubbish, but it was to film it themselves, and we would try and cut it together as best we could. Yeah. These mini versions of movies, right? And the guidelines they sent me, so I wanted to see them cast, see, can you act some bit or at least know what role to put you in? So it gave them all 2 options of a monologues from 2 different very good movies, A Few Good Men and Erin Brockovich, right? 2 30-second bits. Do them to the camera as best you can. Great. So sent him over. Not 3 minutes later, came back going, so some of and they had a word for each other. It wasn't colleagues. It was like a fucking word they'd invented. Yeah. Find both of these are quite on an aggressive edge. I'm like, they're fucking, it's the telly. They're on an aggressive edge. And
the way you're sitting with your legs open right now, Tom, is actually a microaggression.
Oh yeah. And and all these steps and it was the Irish counterpart that was producing the scenario for them and was speaking to me, and all these scenarios that, and I sent him over 2 more. That one's leaning a little towards anti-Semitism. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's not. And
it's an illness, and it drives me insane of people just spending all this time trying to find problems, avoiding problems instead of just doing your fucking job.
Yeah.
For me, the saddest people in the world are those people who live on the internet, waiting to be offended, trying to, virtue signaling. You're just the most pathetic, sad, haven't done anything for good for anybody ever. If they saw someone getting fucking murdered in front of them, they would do nothing and they would tweet about how traumatic they found that experience.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are the saddest, ugliest, weakest excuses for human beings in fucking humanity. You're
it's a lack of tangibility to reality is what, again, you talk about a man letting his thumb die off, or that guy driving it in 4 degrees the other morning.
You're either fucking a good person or you're not a good person.
Yeah, simple.
That is it. You're either decent or you're not decent. And, this fucking absolute bullshit about, oh, come on, guys, let's all do better. And all the guys, anyone who does this, we all need to do better, always end up being the biggest fucking predators. And we've seen it. We've seen it.
Men and women. There are also women who are the shoutiest, and you find out the women who don't really row in with them. A lot of times it comes out of the woodwork that they were creepy fuckers themselves in the past. You know what I mean? It's but I'm interested in your opinion. This all has to come about full circle, because when you build an ideology on sand, which is what that shit is, there's no way it can sustain culture. You know what I mean? It can't, as you said, we'll chat about it in a second. You go to a country that's at any point it could be on its fucking knees, but or you go to a place that doesn't have wealth, i.e. rural Ireland. There is no wealth to speak of. The wealth is the nature around you. Yes, you've wealthy farmers, but these are lads who they're up to their bollocks and shite most days. Yeah. So they don't, there's no time for that out shit, because it doesn't make money. And if you don't make money, you die in the countryside, because there's nobody to hold you up. There's nobody to go, hey man, come on in here and let's have some soup. You go, oh no, you're dead. You're dying of the hunger. That's it.
It's a famine. You're in a ditch with a mouthful of nettles.
I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong with it. Do you know what? That'll probably they charge you fucking $15.50 for that in a restaurant.
No way your man who let his thumb die doesn't just eat nettles straight up.
I remember being at the Flower Championship one year. And a few of us were videoing it, so it went viral, but not as a result of me. Mine got a lot of views, but a few other people were filming it. This guy was at it was a parade ring of cattle, right? They were fucking lovely. Like, they had them all blow dried and everything. They were cool. And I was hosting the thing. And I was just fascinated by the ploughing championship because it has grown into such a huge fucking expo, right?
It's Culture Mecca, like.
It's Culture Mecca. And I suppose anybody who's into like there's everything there. It's worth going for anybody, like. But I was hosting the thing, and there was long breaks in between, so it was like from 1 to 2 to 4 to 5, you know. So I go off for a wander. And I remember went into this parade ring of cattle, and there was an owl fella there who had, wait for this, Denny, not even in the pack, just dropped in like something out of a cartoon. He had a full length of Linka sausages, right, raw sausages in the poker, and he was chatting away to another fella,
like
and taking them out one at a time and just snapping them off and just waffle them down like a fucking bear, right? Raw sausages. Nah! I'd never seen that like it in my life. This might be the rawest hard bastard I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Interestingly, you say that. You saw Liver King.
Oh, yeah.
Posed for having 10. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Really? Oh, I couldn't believe that. I can't believe that he's like that size and constantly vascularly bulging.
Like, he looks like a giant cock that's on a rager. Do you know what I mean? He's covered in lumps and veins. You're like, that's a
throbbing cock with a beard that jizzes liver.
But you know what? I'm not like, there seems to be a lot of outrage about this, right? About, oh my God, Liver King. And every time I go on Instagram or TikTok, there seems to be somebody going,
what did you think he was up to?
But this, like, it's literally, the second I saw that, I went, oh yeah. But sure, like, yeah. But there seems to be this huge blanket of fucking anger at Liver King. It's like, but sure, so what? Like, it is, but sure, it's like, just, yeah, fine. You
all the meat and stuff like that. And like, I've no doubt that he'd still be a unit, but you don't
get that.
You don't get that, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron body from eating liver. You just simply don't.
Or test. You just don't. But it's the blanket outrage of that versus, why isn't there a blanket outrage of that Balenciaga fucking ad campaign that went on last week? Like, there was bits and pieces of mad jokes.
Why is there no outrage at Qatar? Why is there no outrage at the housing crisis? Why is there no outrage that there's 10,000 people sleeping on the streets of Dublin? Why is there no outrage that there's no rent capping? Why is there no outrage that, like, people are literally having to choose between food and heating this winter in Ireland? And you're upset about Liver King, or you're upset about some bullshit. I'm like, and like, I like Rory Ahern, who's like being like organizing protests and stuff like that about, you know, stuff in Ireland and rent capping. I will be at that protest 100%, because this is complete and utter bullshit, and it's unsustainable. And you can't just keep hiking up rents, like seeing like 300 people queuing up to view like a 3-bedroom gaff, like a bunk bed.
Disgusting.
1,700 quid a month to share a room with 3 people in one room. 1,700 quid. 800 quid for a bunk. 800 quid for a bunk. What? That's what you would expect. It's insane, man. It's absolutely
you could actually buy. I was only thinking about this the other day, right? Because there was a fella on. He was saying, you know, just like you were saying earlier, like 1,700 for that fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was that fucking cat. I thought at least you get your own room, but. And then in Paris, the equivalent was 900 a month. Fucking Paris, like. And then, but I was thinking, I said, for even for 900 a month, you could buy a high end, like, estate Merc on a monthly 5-year plan, and live in the Merc, like live in a Merc.
Yeah.
And run it and insure it for 800 a month. Like, you could easily do that. You could get yourself a nice 180 or a 200 series, you know, throw the fucking...
Or a Sprinter and a mattress.
A Sprinter and a mattress, like. I'm telling you, before I could justify handing it over to some cunt who's...
It stings, and I get shit all the time, and it's a real passive-aggressive Irish thing as well. It's like, oh, geez, do you ever take a day off? Do you ever take a day off? And I'm like, I grew up with like a single mother who I love, by the way, but like, I've no family wealth. I've no parents, and I know a lot of people as well. Like, you know, they work hard to buy houses, but a lot of people's parents just give them the deposit. Yeah. I don't have that, and they're like, I'm working on saving, and people are like, oh yeah, you know, it's just lucky, like, we bought at the right time, and I'm like, or like the option of, yeah, we just lived at home. My favorite thing as well is that, yeah, we really struggled to buy our house. You know, all we had to do was move in with my parents, let them pay for everything, not pay any rent, not pay any electricity, not pay any bills, live with them for 18 months. And because of that, we were able to save
It just
20
sorted
grand.
itself out after that. Yeah, it was a real struggle. It was a real struggle.
Don't tell us we haven't struggled. Oh,
Yeah.
also they gave us another 20 grand just to make sure that we were able to get a good deposit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That shit drives me up the wall. Like, I know sacrifices and stuff, but like not paying rent and living with your parents, to me, is not a real world sacrifice.
No. A fair play to anybody who can do it, but don't make out like you're on your hands and knees and come down off the cross, will you? Because it's just not an option. Like we were lucky enough that my parents had enough, not wealthy, but they had enough of an acre out the back. They went, "Do you want to put something on that?" But so I had to take a backward step to buy a log cabin.
That sounds like something someone would say at a one night stand after.
Yeah. Do you want to put something on that? Do you? Yeah, I have no fucking night. Will you put something on that, will you? I can fucking bring you home for the fuck just to be looking at you. But that was the option. That and up and down this road, I'm just like up. That's what every couple with small children has done here. And then allow them, but you still pay you still pay for the property. You know what I mean? You still got it. The only thing that can be given here is because everybody you've much more space here.
Yeah, of course.
Like there's nobody with a Rathfarnham sized garden here. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's got one where you could actually put a horse on. You know what I mean? Like
I just like, I'm just struggling to see the value. Like I love this city. I have 2 clubs in this city. I love the crack of this city. I love the pubs in this city. The comedy, when you gig in different countries as well. Like one thing I will say, because not to be all negative about it, is that Dublin, you are privileged, and London as well, that you can gig as a comic 7 nights a week if you want.
Yeah.
To a full room. Yeah. That is rare, man. I gig all over the place, and like you don't get that in Europe. You don't get that in like the likes of Zurich or Barcelona. You know what I mean? Like there's some really decent gigs, but there's a lot of shite hostage situation.
People
are, even in Mexico, like I did this gig and I'm like, this isn't a gig. This is just people having mental health problems that should go to therapy. You know what I mean? Like, and unfortunately, that's what comedy does. Comedy is a vehicle for people who are struggling. And for me, anyone who goes to therapy, I always think, I've had to do it myself. I was going through a really difficult time a few years ago, and I was in this really fucking awful relationship, and I went to see a therapist, and I got out of the relationship. It gave me the clarity, 1 session, and I'm like, this is a nightmare. I'm out. And if I hadn't have gone, I needed someone outside of my friend and family to talk to. And anyone I think who gets help, I think is an absolute fucking legend, and fair play to you. And if you're struggling, I always think about like getting to do with mental health, and not to get brezzy on this, but it's like, if you hurt your knee or you hurt your back, you go to the doctor, unless you're like your neighbor, you just let your leg fall off. But with your head, like, it's just health. That's all it is. It's just, this is unwell at the moment. I need to go fix this thing. And you just get it fixed, and then you move on with your life, But like, comedy, unfortunately, is rife with people with serious mental health problems who aren't dealing with them. And they kind of use comedy and the stage and the platform, or be it social media or whatever, to vent their mental health problems, when in reality you can still be a comic, but go sort your head out first. Go deal with your problems. Like, it's not, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like
100%. Yeah, you see it the whole time. Like,
just there at these 10 minutes of people literally telling you how shit their life is, and no jokes. And I'm like, this is just awful. It's awful for the audience. It's awful for you. It's awful for the other comics. Go get some help. Go to the gym. Go for a run. Stop drinking. How about you stop drinking?
Yeah.
Stop drinking a depressant every fucking night. And maybe, I don't know, maybe stop smoking weed. Maybe don't do coke. Maybe go for a run for a week. Stop exercise. Exercise. Try eat something. Stop scooping, and maybe see how you feel then.
Because you were the amount of times that we've spoken about this, going, geez, that lad needs, and you can't, like, it's hard to actually pull somebody aside. Like, but I was talking with a Lithuanian guy the other day, and he was saying that it was amazing because he had decent English, but what he had was very abrupt English. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have the hang-ups like, sure herself, and she's not doing great. He just went, I says, like he was late back to the thing that we were working on, and I went, is everything? The daughter has the mental health. I said, oh, Jesus, is she getting help? Yeah, she's getting Ireland a good country for the mental health. When you go looking, because Lithuania wouldn't be great with the mental health, but because he's just got enough. Yeah. But there was a brutal honesty in the way he was speaking. He was speaking and not keeping it under breath. He was saying it for all to hear in the same way as if the girl had a fucking awful spinal injury or something. Like he was going, we'll get to the bottom of him. We'll get to the bottom of it. Is basically what he was saying. Like I was going, but
that's how you deal with things. Yeah. Like you deal with your problems, and the problem is that people don't. This is the thing I get all the time as well. I did a friend of ours, Shane Brown, did an amazing podcast called The Other Place.
Yeah, I listened to it. It's brilliant.
It's incredible. And he went through, and I'd highly recommend anyone to listen to it. I'll stick a link up and stuff like that. But he went through a pretty traumatic family thing, and you'll hear about it in the podcast. And he did a mushroom ceremony. And I had done some psychedelics in Central America when I was writing the show that I'm touring now. And he said, will you come and do one with me? And we had to prepare all week. So we were getting messages from this shaman, and she's like, you're going to meet this spirit god, and you need to make your affirmations. And it was all this kind of stuff. And we were kind of we're kind of laughing about it. And we were like, but she said, don't drink for the week, exercise, drink water, no caffeine, basically get your head right.
Yeah.
And the mushroom one was insane, but we did DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine, which is the strongest drug in the world. And I'm telling you now, if I hadn't got my head ready, because I was so stressed out with loads of different things in my life, but if I hadn't spent that week preparing, that's what a bad trip is, I suppose. When people aren't dealing with their mental health problems, then they take psychedelics. You won't have a bad trip. All you see with psychedelics is stuff that's already in your head.
Yes.
So if you're not processing or dealing with your issues, and then you throw psychedelics on top of it, it's throwing petrol on the fire. But when we did all these things, it's like loads of friends of mine, when I told them I was doing it, were like, oh yeah, did you go mental? Did you lose did you lose your mind? And kind of nearly wanting to hear that I'd had a complete mental breakdown. And I said, no, it was actually one of the best things. I was bawling my eyes out crying, saying I'm free of madness. It was like a near-death experience, the only way I can describe it. But I was like, no, because I got my head together. And I made sure that my head was in the right place. And if it wasn't in a good place, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But these are the same people who have extremely miserable lives. They're not happy with their life. They're not happy with their home life. They're not happy with work life. And they won't even look in the mirror.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean,
yeah.
They won't look inwards, and they'll go, oh yeah, you taking psychedelics, did you go mad? And I'm like, and if you listen to Shane's podcast, it's brave, because if you want to deal with psychedelics, it's the ultimate looking inwards at yourself.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's the ultimate light being shone on all the things that are in your head. That's what psychedelics are.
Yeah.
But most people are just like, oh yeah, they're for hippies, and you'll go mad and you'll jump off a balcony. And I'm like, no, you're actually trying to process stuff by using them. You're not trying to do it to have
to blank them out. Yeah, you know yeah.
But I most people, the simplest thing, like you were saying about your Lithuanian mate, if you're not well, go to your GP.
Yeah.
And go, I'm not well. And it doesn't mean you're suddenly going to get put on antidepressants. They'll go, well, are you doing this, and this? But most people won't do that. They just deal with, they have it, and then they just hate all around them. It's so toxic, man.
I think possibly too, because given that she was a 15-year-old girl who was dealing with, I suppose, heavy anxiety or whatever, it seems to me like the school was very cool about it. You know what I mean? Like the local school here, we're very cool. They're like, yeah, cool, let's get her help. So I think definitely when we went to school, if you had fucking heavy anxiety, you'd just be the odd cunt.
I had heavy anxiety every single morning going into school, because hadn't done my homework. 6 years were going to kick the bollocks out of you as you went in the door. Lads used to wait at the doors of my school. I went to a country school in Rathrum, and I remember you'd walk in and there'd just be a row of 6 years. They're men, they're 18-year-old
yeah.
farmers, and you're a 12-year-old. with like not even any facial hair. Like I looked like a fetus when I was 12. And you're in there with your little school bag, and lads would just kick the fuck out of you. Like it was really fucking awful and traumatic. And that's why I'm like, you know, when I see people getting upset about things and talking about like, oh, my anxiety is flaring up, and I'm like, man, I used to be like on the school bus going, I'm wondering who's going to get me on the way in the car. This is before my school day had even started. You're there with a fucking tissue up your nose to stop it bleeding, trying to get your maths homework done, copying off your mate furiously, and you're telling me that as a grown adult that you've too much anxiety to learn how to drive? What? Are you fucking for real? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But come here, you were a place I've always dreamt of going to. It's you've frequented Central America and Southern, I suppose South America. Oh, you've probably seen it all, nearly all at this stage.
I haven't done South yet. It was all Central, to be honest with
Central,
you.
yeah.
It's so huge. Like, and to be honest with you, I always thought South was Central and Central.
So did I.
Well,
so did I. You just we've learned something on today's podcast, if nothing else.
Yeah. If you learned nothing, so during COVID, I basically went to Costa Rica because I had a mate of mine there. And I was
this is the Costa Rica in the Americas, not the one in fucking Portugal or wherever the fuck people go on.
Yeah, it's not that
I'm
one.
off the Costa. I'll never forget. It was a guy. He was a bricklayer. And he was like, I'm off the Costa Rica. I went, fucking are you? That's a trick. He's like, it's fucking grand. It's fucking, you know what I mean? Fucking points €2. I was like,
oh yeah,
euro. And I'm like, what? And I totally missed out. There's a Costa Rica somewhere in fucking some holiday.
Tenerife, man.
Tenerife, right.
You know, my favorite thing is, and I've had this conversation so many times, I always laugh actually with yours talking about this. It's like, it's a real taxi driver conversation where I look in the backseat going, away. And you're like, here it comes. Here's the fucking grenade roll of how he's going to tell you how class his life is versus yours. And or it's real Dublin bar chat. He goes, about 40 of us go away every year.
Every year, yeah.
Which I'd genuinely rather die in a plane crash than do that. And he's like, about 40 of us go out every year. We go to the same place. And wherever it's like, you know what I mean? It's not Santa Fe, whatever, you know, like insert one of the...
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, and like, he's like, over there, couple of scoops at the pool. The women are shopping. Yeah. Kids are in the pool, football on the telly, €2 a pint. And they're looking around, and I'm going, you spent 800 quid getting there. Do you get what I mean? Like, that doesn't subsidize your pints enough. Like, how many pints, like, say a pint's $5.60 in Dublin, how many pints would you have to drink to make your airfare back? Do you get what I mean?
Oh, listen, it's but sure, the holiday destination crowds have it locked in. They're like, just keep the pints down, but charge them whatever the fuck you want for the room. Like, and the
you're still spending $2,000.
Yeah.
So I don't give a fuck that you're saving €2 a pint. Like, I don't care how cheap a pint is. Like, this thing always, people go mental over that. And someone made a really good point to me recently about the price of pints in Temple Bar. Colin, actually, who I run the Crunch with, his mate said this to him. They're like, oh, look, you know the receipts go up on social media. €8 for a pint of Guinness. This is madness. We're in a capital city. It's the same in London. It's the same in New York. Singapore, it's about 15, probably 20 quid a pint, right? But in Dublin, one thing I will say, if you go to Temple Bar and you and me go to Temple Bar and we have 4 pints of Guinness each, right? So the guts of 40 quid we spent.
Yeah.
We've also got, it's packed. We've also got live music.
Yeah.
The whole time that we're there.
The place is hopping. Like, it's pumping.
For 40 quid, you'll have a fucking cracker of a night. You'll meet people from all over the world, and you've had 4 pints, and you've got a class live musician playing.
But you could literally walk 100 meters in any direction and nearly cut that in half. You know what I mean? You're like,
no, but even so, like you're only, even if you did walk 100 meters, the difference between us having 4 pints in the long hall or 4 pints in the Temple Bar, the difference is only fucking a tenner. Do you know what I mean? I just think you're losing perspective of, like, maybe look at your rent or the cost of your flights, or how much is your fucking car loan that you didn't need, 800 quid a month.
Yeah.
I just think people think about things, oh, you can fill it rolls €5. Your mortgage is $1 million. But you know what I mean? I'm always just gobsmacked where I'm going, think about, I don't know. But sorry, to get back, I went to Central America, was doing Zoom gigs. A pal of mine from, I'd worked with in New York like nearly 20 years ago. He saw I did all the outdoor shows, and then we made the TV show on the flats in Ringsend called the Lockdown Comedy Special. And he says to me, lunatic from Tyrone, his name is Rory, and he said, do you want to come to Guatemala? COVID's only a suggestion here.
Lovely.
And I flew from Costa Rica to Guatemala, PCR'd all that, and man, Guatemala is not on everyone's radar, and it is a different world. It is a different world, and it's somewhere like I'll go for the rest of my life. I'll hopefully be able to go once a year. I'm involved in a charity over there now that a mate of mine runs, that we did a fundraiser for. I just saw how, not to be all like, you know, we built some houses in Africa. I heard some really depressing stories from people who've lived in South Africa, actually, who I met over there, that a lot of the schools, that so they would get a gap year student from the UK. We're going to go to Africa. We're going to build houses. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to Kenya. So they pay $4,000, and that's their flight, and that covers the building the house. They get pictures with all the kids. Happy days. As soon as they leave, they tear the houses down. Those kids never live in them. The schools never get used. It's a lot of it is a farce. It's not really great. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because my mate lived there. She lived there for 3 years, and she's like, it's a scam, and it always has been. They literally rip them. They put up these things, you know, timber, nail gun. Look at our wonderful school. They rip it down. They get more money. They start again.
Yeah. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm very, obviously, when I hear stuff like that, like any charities now that I work with, I need to see direct impact. So when I was in Guatemala, we literally made it. It was about $1,000 US. My mate who owns the bar matched the ticket money that I raised. I threw in a few quid, got it up to 1,000. We did a whip around on the night. We like 1,000 quid is a lot of money in Guatemala as well. Like, you know what I mean? And I know that'd be handy to get together out of a group of people in Dublin, but you're not charging 20 quid a ticket in Guatemala. You're charging $4. So you have to. We did sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
But anyway, we did it, and with that 1,000 quid, my friend owns a charity called the Integral Heart Foundation. He's from Athlone, and it was his 60th, actually. That was one of the reasons I went over, and it was his wife's 50th. She's from Spain, he's from Athlone. But the school is amazing, and like I used to work in youth work, and like they have a little counselor. It's very basic, man. Like it's very basic, but that 1,000 quid paid for a Christmas party for 65 kids, bought all of them presents, like little toy cards. Like 65 presents given out by 3 Irish fellas, one from Athlone, one from Wicklow, one from Tyrone. And we got them singing ole, 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 and everything, man. It was hilarious. It was like some like little weird, like little IRA, like start. But we bought six just to give a better perspective of like how far your money can help in a third world country versus us. Because I was guilty of moaning about our life and how expensive things are here. But that 1,000 quid, which is what some people would spend on a single present for a single child.
Yeah.
Easy. Like an iPad or, you know, whatever, maybe a PS5 or whatever. And that 1,000 quid was able to pay for like a Christmas party basically for 65 kids, food, all that kind of crack, decorations, presents for the 65 kids, and 44 bags of food that had about a week shopping, 2 chickens, rice for 44 of the families of those kids.
Holy shit!
That to me is what charity is.
Yeah,
they don't take a wage out of it. They don't take anything. They pay the 3 women who run the center. They're locals, the kindest and most beautiful women you could ever meet in your life. Just 3 little Guatemalan mammies, like just superstars. The kids were incredible, and I was like, I worked in youth work for years, man, and like I got like headbutted in work by teenager, like loads, like there were a lot of social issues in Ireland, but like, you know, there's kids like turning up, like giving out, going like, we're going to cinema. I don't want to go to the fucking cinema, you fucking prick, you know, this kind of shit. And then you're dealing with kids who are literally starving, and you're like going, this is, for me personally, that's the kind of help that I want to give. I want to see direct. I don't want to see a CEO of a charity on 250 grand a year pulling up in a brand new 222 Range Rover.
Yeah.
Ireland, as you well know, there is a business of charity in Ireland.
Oh, there is. Jesus, yeah,
and it
huge.
is business. It is fucking business. And I'll still do charity gigs, but I'm being very selective about who I work with because I'm not giving my time to pay a CEO's wages. I want to give my time to help people who need help.
Class. But you developed the God of all things bed.
Yeah, so when I first went there, my mate told me about this god. I kept seeing this little weird puppet everywhere. It's like a little dark kind of evil old man, Bosco. And I was like, what's the crack with that? And my mate goes, oh, that's Mashaman. So it's like a Mayan god. So when the Mayans got colonized by the Spanish, they're like, you're all Christians now. You've all got to pray to Jesus or whatever. But the Mayans kept fighting back. So they're like, right, we'll let you keep your little weird Mayan god if you stop kicking off. So loads of churches in Guatemala, particularly in the Mayan heavy areas, you'll see a little separate church beside the church, like a little granny flat.
Right.
And that's where Mashaman lives. And I went to meet the actual Mashaman. So they have this wooden statue, and it's all these weird like things. He has to be carved in the dark. Right. Oh. That's one of the things. It moves from a different house in this place called Santiago. So this house hosts Mashaman for a year, and it's a big privilege, right? And this is as Mayan as it gets. Like, this is on a lake. You can only get there by boat. If you were to drive there, it would take you about 12 hours. Like, it's all back roads. And I actually thought about this before I came on the podcast because my mates went to visit Mashaman after I went to meet him. And basically, you buy him a drink or you give him a fag or a mushrooms or a cigarette. Let me be very clear. No, don't want to get tweeted at. You give him a smoke, you give him a drink, you give him some magic mushrooms. You can give him coke if you want. You can give him what you want. You give him an offering, and you tell him what your problem is between you and him, and he does his best for you. That's it.
I'll do my best.
And I just thought, that's a fucking religion that I can get behind. And all the lads are scooping with him. I bought him a little naggin of whiskey, right? And they actually tipped the statue back and poured the whiskey into the wooden statue. So body, and it goes into a bucket. And then the lads all drink that at the end of the night. It's like a dolly mix when you're a kid. And then
that's strained through a lump of fucking wood. Okay.
And then they have a 6-foot Jesus in a coffin beside him in a clear glass coffin, right?
Okay.
With like Ho Chi Minh, except it's like a Jesus statue in a coffin with all these LED disco lights. And then they've got like a random like female effigy in another coffin, and that's apparently Mashaman's wife. And I told my friends went to visit, and I said, listen, you'll see Mashaman. I told them the crack, and I said, you're gonna see Techno-Jesus. And my friend's wife said when she got there, she couldn't stop laughing or breathe the whole time because she just couldn't. She's Spanish. She goes, you have ruined Jesus for me, because she just kept laughing. So it's just Jesus with all these techno lights, like some kind of mental taxi in India. But anyway, I wrote a show, and it was kind of based about the people that I met in Guatemala, and like the likes of Antigua. Antigua's mad. Like, someone said something to me just before I left. Like, it's full of heroes and villains. Like, no one's in Antigua because they paid their taxes.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's real. And it's
John McAfee sort of a place. Like,
short flight from the States. There's a lot of lads who would do like commercial fishing, like Deadliest Catch. Yeah. A lot of those boys would do that kind of work for 4 months. Then they would live in Antigua for 8 months with the money. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of place. And this fella who is 100% on the run, let's call him Mikey. He hasn't been back in the States for about 6.5 years. He's nearly died a few times recently. He got what did he get? It begins with T. He got some like tropical disease. And he had to like cut his stomach out. Like, he's a lunatic. Like, and then he was told, like, if he doesn't stop smoking and doing all the other bad stuff, like, he's gonna die. He's just like, wow. And then he's a header, but a very, very funny dude, a very intelligent guy as well, but obviously has his demons. But what he said to me about Antigua, and this for me sums up Antigua. It's stunning, by the way. The most beautiful city, amazing people, amazing restaurants, but just class, old colonial. It was the capital of Guatemala. There was an earthquake, and then they moved it to the city. And he just goes, do you know what, man? I love Antigua because it's the home of the wanted and the unwanted. And like that, if I could sum up kind of Guatemala as a place and
put that in a movie, Jesus Christ.
It's just, I just connected with the people there and met so many sound fuckers, met some comics there. I was the only English-speaking comic ever to do a show in a Guatemalan comedy club ever. Like the only gringo. And then they invited me to do a theater. There's only one theater in the whole country. And the show was to staff that all worked in call centers, so they had English. But the show was basically a piss take. It was basically like a fuck the gringos show. So the lads were like, you're going to be on this, like, you know what I mean? So I was like a token gringo on a show called Fuck the Gringos, pretty much. And I went on and I just said, listen, I'm not a gringo, because they would usually, gringos would be Americans. And I said, I'm Irish, and I got a big clap, and then it was away. You have to be grateful to be an Irishman when you travel, because it's our passport, our nationality is, people automatically want to be your friend, and we're very privileged to come from a country like that. For all the negativity that comes with Ireland, we're lucky, because we've got except for like Western Australia and stuff, where like a lot of lads have like poisoned our name from alcoholism and like baiting each other. And but yeah, like it's somewhere I just really connected with. I love I have friends there for life. I'm going to try and go there every year. I wrote the show while I was there. I finished the show. I filmed a special of the show.
That's what I wanted to get to. Yeah, where did you film that?
In that only comedy club. It's in Zone 10 in Guatemala City. And it was in a place called La Resortera. And the 3 acts that were on with me, the host had never done a gig he'd done some English speaking gigs, but he hosted a gig for the first time in English, and did a better job than lads I know who've been MCing for 20 years. I'm not joking. He just did the right thing. He just did some jokes, you know what I mean? And then 2 other acts did their sets in English. And like, to do it, I did 1 gig in Irish once in my life. Doing a gig in a different language is insane.
I can't actually wrap my head around it. It's when I see people doing it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so impressed. I feel so shit because
same. And then like, and I did the show, and it's still chaotic because it's Guatemala and people are spilling drinks and it's messy. Like, but you'll never. It's the curse of the camera. No matter where you are in the world, as soon as you put the camera on, there'll always be a bit of messing with the gig. But like, so I filmed that special there. I should have that out soon. I'm probably I'm gonna sell it on flash drives after gigs, but I'll stick it up on YouTube. But the 2 main characters out of the show, one is a guy called Neil from Cork, who's a hurler from like the middle of like back arse of nowhere, near Dripsy actually, where Colin O'Regan is from. And then my other mate is from Tyrone, but they were like 40% of the show. And it was all real, and it was all about them. But they were at the gig, which was so fucked up, because I've been touring this show for a year, trying to make strangers understand. And it's hard to explain to people, like, when you're trying to develop a character, like, these are real people, but you have to write and develop that material so that someone understands that character. Like you telling me about your man's thumb falling off, like, you get a sense of what he is. But these guys could be made up for all they know. They're not, but they could be. But I spent over a year, like, I think I've done 70 something of the gigs of this show, including Edinburgh and all that. So the show is super tight now. So it ripped it. But it's so weird when people are laughing, but the people are in the show.
The boys are actually in there. That's fucking brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but there's a picture on my Instagram. If you have a look, there's a picture of the real lad. So if you come and see the show, I'm only doing a few more dates next year, but if you see it or you've seen it and you want to actually physically see what the 2 lads look like, I have a photo with the 2 of them from the gig in Guatemala City. And they drove like 6 hours to come.
Legends.
Like, mates of mine drove from all over the country.
That's class.
And then I come home on the last.
You can't get a like on fucking Instagram.
I can't get a like or a share. Any chance of we have to pay for tickets? Yeah, lad. Sorry. You're right. I'll give you free tickets because, God forbid you might try and support me. Like,
I mean, where, because I won't keep you any longer because you're the busiest man in the fucking world, which you've clearly found out. Where's the best place to find? Because
everything's at DannyO'BrienComedy.com. I'm only, for any Dublin listeners, I'm only doing one more Dublin show. To be honest with you, I wanted to wrap this show up.
Yeah.
Guatemala, and that was the end of it. And then there was demand, and there's been a few extra shows. So I'm doing a run of shows in London in January. I've got one solo show of this on the 26th of January in Dublin. in the Wild Duck, and then I've got a few more different things. I'm actually also doing a tour with Rick Mullins, who owns Scottish
Oh,
Comedy.
very good, Rick. Yeah.
And Billy Kirkwood.
Brilliant.
So we're doing a little micro tour in Scotland and England called The Englishman, the Irishman, an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman.
Perfect.
And we just said, let's do it for the crack. Let's do a triple header, 20 minutes, bang, 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 and then we're probably going to be doing that for the whole month of the Edinburgh Fringe.
Class.
And we'll have guests as well. So
and two good blokes to do it too, like, you know.
Yeah, but like the idea of the show is that, like, especially during Fringe, like we won't be able to do it every single day, all of us. So if I'm on, I'd swap myself for you or Rory O'Hanlon, or, you know, if Billy Kirkwood wasn't doing it, he'd swap himself out for Larry Dean or Stu Mitchell. But the point is that it's a headliner show, 3 headliners, 1 Englishman, 1 Irishman, 1 Scotsman. I know it's a cliche, but do you know what? Everyone's into that.
Yeah.
And I just think, who wouldn't look at that and go, fuck it, that's going to be a bit of crack.
Yeah, because I mean, you can get too fucking smart with yourself, and I love the idea of that. But then obviously people may show up for the notion of, I love a bit of silly you, and then they see 3 savage headliners. So you're like, oh, okay, that's actually.
But that's it. But it's just an hour of pure ba-bang, ba-bang, and, like, you know, we all do our shows. You have your narratives, and you have your this, that, and the other. But and like the Guatemala show is good crack, and it's about mad fuckers. It's about the God of all things bad, but all of it is from truth. Like, it's so fucked up. I couldn't even have possibly imagined what would happen there. Like, I got parasites and everything when I met the God of all things bad, nearly fucking died. I'll never moan about a dodgy fucking chicken fillet roll or taco fries for the rest of my life. And but yeah, like, and I'm kind of going, what do I do now? Because I'm after doing this. So that's why I'm going to continue the tour. It's going to New Zealand Comedy Festival as well. So it's actually going to be going.
Oh, we have a bunch of Kiwis listening to this as well.
Actually, it'll finish it'll go from January and it'll finish in June. But in between January and June, I'm going to have to write a new hour for August. But I don't know I have no idea what the fuck that's going to be, to be honest with you. But
about fucking traffic in Dublin. That's what it'll fucking be about.
Yeah. It'll be about traffic, rental crisis, all the like stuff, all the funny stuff.
And I'll put DannyO'Brien.com in the show notes. It was fucking class, man. Thank you very much, Danny. So DannyO'Brien.com. I forgot to say too at the top of the show that I am cutting off the mullet. It is some of you will have seen it on Instagram. Some of you are like clutching your pearls right now. I hear you. I'm cutting off the mullet for charity. The link is at the top of the link when you go in, the Linktree link when you go in through the show notes. There's everything else in there, from the Patreon to merch to YouTube pages and all, but it's at the top. As well as that, there's a tickets to the Hill show. But yeah, the mullet is coming off. I know, I'm saying it quickly because I know it's like just ripping the band-aid off, cutting it off before Christmas. You can donate to the charity that PWSAI, that I'm going to be donating the money to, for unbelievably. I set a target of 500 quid, and it's going in like 2 days when I announced, when we said it, when Natasha put it together. It's fair play to you. It's very cool that people are donating towards me cutting off my hair. It's for a good cause, so if you would, it'd be great. Give the minimum if you can, or whatever you can give would be absolutely great. So Spotify, give us the 5 stars if you would, please. Hit subscribe if it's your first time listening. And of course the Wrapped thing, if that is a thing that pops up, if I pop up in your top 5, then please tag the podcast or tag me. That'd be absolutely delish. Other than that, gang, keep listening, wash your hands, mind your arse, and have a lovely weekend. Good night, God bless, and thanks.